Hare Krishna, welcome. Good to see you all. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
There is life.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
good.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good to see you all. So tonight, this is an overview class of the Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, by Rupa Goswami, translated and commented upon by Srila Prabhupada. So we're going to do an overview class. If you have any questions as we go in each section. So we'll cover the 11 verses tonight. And this book is very important in our tradition because this book takes us from the beginning of spiritual life to the higher stages of spiritual life. So we need to travel through all the different levels. The book finishes on the highest level of spiritual life. And in order to get there, you have to put into practice all of the instructions which are given throughout the book. Now, the book is called Upadeshamrita. Upadesh means instruction. Amrita means nectar. Nectar means a drink which will give you immortality, which will make you live forever, which is our goal. Our goal is to live forever. Because the body we're in now doesn't live forever. Temporary. The soul lives forever. So this book teaches us how to get back onto the platform of the soul, how to go back to the spiritual platform. So if we follow the instructions perfectly in the Upadeshamrita, then we will reach the platform where we transcend this material body and we can enter the place without death. The word Amrita means death. Amrita means without death. So it will take us to the spiritual platform because the spiritual platform means the stage where we enter where there is no death. There's no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. So that is the platform that we're aiming for. So if we follow these verses properly, then we will reach that stage. Now, the first 7 verses deal with Vaiti Sadhana Bhakti. Vaiti, the word Viti means rules. There's certain rules that we need to follow. Modern society doesn't like to follow rules. And look at the condition of modern society. No rules, just do whatever you want and look at the condition. Not peaceful. So it is required that we follow some rules. But the rules must be for our benefit. No one really likes following rules. Hands up if you like following rules. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, this side of the room likes following. And then we have the rebels to my right. Usually the left wing and the rebellious. But for some reason, there's a crossover. Or at least externally they're following. We don't like to follow rules a lot of the time. But if you want to advance in spiritual life, you must follow rules because the rules are good for us. Just like with children. If you don't discipline a child, it doesn't develop good character. Just do whatever you want. Go and enjoy yourself. No rules. Right? And then look at the way the child turns out. Yeah, it doesn't work. So it's funny because when it comes to disciplining a child or bringing up a child, nearly everyone understands you have to have discipline, rules set in place. But when it comes to spiritual life, people say, oh, you don't need rules, just whatever you feel. That's good. But that doesn't work. Why is it in the rest of society we need rules, but in spiritual life we don't? That doesn't even make sense. But this is the modern world, I think, like that. So these 11 instructions are written by Rupa Goswami. In the preface, we hear about how all the followers in our tradition, in the Hare Krishna movement, we are called Rupanuga Vaishnavas. Anuga. Rupa Goswami is the person who wrote the book. Anuga means the people who follow. That's us. We're Rupa Nuga. We're trying to be Rupa. So he is the most important guru who came after Lord Chaitanya himself, who came after God himself 500 years ago. He was a contemporary. He was a disciple, a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he's the most prominent follower. He is the leader of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Of course, we know in the spiritual world he's Rupa Manjari, Radharani's most confidential maidservant. So in this world, Rupa Goswami, he has written this book. And the book has 11 instructions. Now, yeah, I've contemplated this many times. He could have chosen so many things to write about. Why did he choose these 11 instructions? Because, if someone's this exalted, someone's this spiritually enlightened, and they say these are the 11 things that you need to follow, then that will give us perfection. So we don't need to do it. And actually, I know in the past, one of the sannyasis, one of the monks, lifelong monks, celibate monks in our tradition, he would carry this book with him all the time. I don't know if he still does it, but there was a point where he literally had the book on him all the time. So this is called the Upadesh Amrita. So the preface discusses that we must become Rupanuga Vaishnavas. We must follow Rupa Goswami. Now, we enter into the book itself. Now, the first 7 verses discuss Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the rules. The first 2 verses discuss the pravriti, or the nivriti, the things that we must avoid in our spiritual practices. Nisheta, it's called. Things that you must avoid. If you don't avoid them, it will be very difficult for you to progress in spiritual life. That's the first 2 verses. Nivriti, things that you need to reject, give up. Nisheda means restrictions. Do not do. Just like with children, you say, do not do it. But then you have to give something positive. Okay, don't do this, but do this. Otherwise, what do they do? If you just give do not do, then what can they do? It's like the child's playing with matches. Okay, give me the matches, I'll give you the car, the matchbox car, the toy car. You give me that, I'll give you that. Right? Okay, you can take the thing off, but you have to give something positive in return. Right? So in spiritual life, there are certain verses, and then verses 3 to 7 is the pravriti, or the viti, or the things that you should, or actually must, practice to become successful in our spiritual practices. Right? So that's the context of the first 7 verses. Then verse 8 discusses what we call Raganuga Bhakti, which means it's spontaneous love for God. Not that you're serving God because you're following the rules, which is good. Serve God, why? Because you have to. Right? That's good. You're doing it because you have to. That's good. But better is when you just do it with rag. Rag means spontaneity. Attachment, rag. I just do it because I want to do it. You don't have to tell me to do it. I want to do it. Right? So that's the platform we need to come through. That's the 8th verse. Then verses 9 to 11 discuss Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. In other words, the prayojana. Prayojana means the goal. Yeah, what we're aiming for. Prema Bhakti. Yeah, the higher stages. The goal, the prayojana. Yeah, prayojana. The prayojana of life is called prema. Prema means love. Love for who? Huh? Cristiano Ronaldo? Messi. Lionel Messi. These 2 guys, the 2 biggest people on the earth on Instagram. most followers, Messi and Ronaldo. No, that's not the goal. Love, that's good. You love Messi, you love Ronaldo, that's okay. That's not the goal of life. They won't give you ultimate fulfillment. The ultimate fulfillment is prema, or love for Krishna, for God. We see God as this little cowherd boy just behind me. That's the goal, to love Krishna. That's the goal. God is a fun person. He's not a boring old man. That's not God. This is God. So the goal is to develop love for Krishna. So that goal and what that's like and the things that will assist that goal are in the final three verses, 9, 10, and 11. The goal is described in 9, 10, and 11, the things that will assist us in attaining the goal fully. That's in 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so now we'll begin to read the verses from the Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction. Any questions or comments, then please ask as we go. So text number 1, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So what is the key word in this Sanskrit verse? Very good, vegan. Yeah. Vegan means urges, very good. And vegan, urges. We have urges. As long as you have a body, you have urges. The body is full of urges. Vacha, manasa, krodha, and then the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. Jiva, udara, and upasta. These are the six urges. The urge to speak, the urges of the mind, the urge of anger, the urge of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. These 6 urges must be controlled. If you control them, you're called a Goswami. You're called a master of the senses. This is the beginning of spiritual life. You can't make real progress unless you control these 6. Now, there are many spiritual paths which will tell you the opposite. Just do whatever you want and you'll become enlightened. No, it's not true. We don't accept that. Others accept that. That's okay. If you want to go to those ashrams, go and stay with them. That's okay. But you won't hear that here. We won't teach. We teach what you need to hear. What you need to hear is reality as distinguished from illusion. So the first urge you have to control is the urge for speech. The tongue, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, is the most voracious of the senses. Hardest to control is the tongue. Why is the tongue hard to control? It does 2 things. Tastes and speaks. First thing you have to learn to control is speech. Control what you say. Now, all through this verse, Srila Prabhupada, he actually gives almost like 2 purports in this commentary. He explains it, then he explains it again. He goes through the 6 urges, then he goes through it a second time. Not sure why Prabhupada decided to do that, but then that's the way he did it. So the first urge is the urge of speech. Now, all these 6 urges, the ultimate teaching that Prabhupada gives and Rupa Goswami gives in order to control those urges is to engage the urges in the service of Krishna, of God. In other words, speak about Krishna. What are we doing right now? Speaking about things which relate to Krishna. We could speak about anything. There's so much nonsense you can speak. The whole world likes to speak. Everyone likes to hear themselves speak. Some people like to hear themselves more than others. But it says in the Bhagavatam, it's just like a frog calling a snake. Right? Everyone goes, "Beep, beep, 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 beep."
They're all out here, so I hear them.
We got it too.
Yeah,
You do the well, you do the bubble.
yeah. Expert. The devotee is called Daksha. Actually means expert. Expert. So we have our expert frog. Poets. Our poets chanting burr, burr. Well, so they're making the frog sound. So the frog does that all day. And what does the frog think? Ooh, my voice sounds very nice. What I am saying is very important. And the snake, who is deaf, he's just coming. And he says, keep speaking, so I can find you. So he just goes, oh, and gets it. So most people waste their life like that. Whole life, just listening to themselves speak. Oh, I speak so many important things. And then death comes one day and goes, you're gone. And people think, oh, I left such an important legacy. But you're gone. Not much very important at all. So first thing is speech. Speech must be controlled by speaking spiritual things. Second is manasa. Manasa means the mind. So the mind does three things: thinking, feeling, and willing. You think about things. You say, Then you begin to feel, what would that be like? And then you will, oh, I have to do it. That's what the mind does. So we have to learn to control the mind. Control the manasa, urge, the vegan, the urge of the mind. Once again, it says, learn to think about Krishna. Things connected to Krishna. Right? In the beginning, our service to Krishna. Like today, I noticed the devotees, you cut up all the wood. So you're thinking about your service. Oh, is the chainsaw serviced? Oh, is the blade sharp? Oh, is there petrol? Oh,
Is it two-stroke oil?
important.
Looks left.
Yeah. Is there two-stroke oil? Yeah. Do I have helpers to pull the branches aside? Is it? Yeah, it's that's a process. That's Krishna's service. In the beginning of spiritual life, that is how we think about Krishna. And as you become more pure, then you think about his pastimes directly. You think, oh, what is Krishna doing right now? What is God doing right now? Not that. So these are the things that we think. Right? That means controlling the mind. That's how we control the mind. And then the third urge is called anger. Because when you don't get what you want, then what do? Right? You destroy something. Yeah, we destroy something. Right? We use speech and we destroy a relationship. Right? You're not acting the way I want. Then you destroy a relationship, speech. Or let's destroy a city. Like they have the riots sometimes. Like in London, sometimes they just let's smash everything, right? Because they're frustrated in the mind. We're not being treated properly. So now let's destroy everything. Anger, can't control the anger. Anger is frustrated desire. That's all it is. That's why if you learn to control your desires, make them spiritual, then you don't become so. Anger's okay, but only when it's used in the right way. When it's used in the right way, yeah, it's okay. But not when it's used like the world's using it in negative ways. Let's just kill people and all these things. It's not necessary. So this is anger. Anger must be used in Krishna's service. Right? If not used in Krishna's service, don't touch it. Then the next three: tongue, jiva, udara, belly, upasta, genitals. These three, Prabhupada explains beautifully in the purport in the commentary, they're in a straight line. If you can't control the tongue, you eat too much, your belly gets too full, puts pressure on the genitals, and then you can't control the genitals. There's a direct line. So those three must be controlled if you're serious about spiritual life. We were reading last night in our class in Melbourne about Lord Chaitanya. He just arrives in Puri, and he goes to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he's offered Jagannath Prasadam, very opulent, nice meal. And he actually says, to Sarvabhauma, please just give me boiled vegetables. And Prabhupada explains, because if we eat too opulently, we'll overeat, fill the belly too much, put pressure on the genitals, then spiritual life is wrong. So that's why we have to eat simply. Prabhupada actually said once a week we should have a feast. He said once a week. Once a week, satisfy your senses. Eat as much as you want. But the rest of the week should be some discipline. So the tongue, the belly, and the genitals. These three must be controlled to make advancement in spiritual life. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So this verse describes controlling the six urges. The negative things which we must control or avoid letting overtaking us if we want to advance properly in our Krishna consciousness. Now, the second verse discusses 6 obstacles for our devotional service. So this verse reads, one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So in the Sanskrit it says, Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashiti. Vinash means destroys. Right? It will destroy your bhakti, these 6 things, if you're not careful. That's why you have to give them up. Now, one of them causes the other 5. Which one causes the other 5? Of the 6.
Greedy.
Which one?
Associating with
Greedy?
other people.
Being greedy, eating more than necessary, or associating with worldly people. Yeah, that one is called Jana Sangash. This is the one that causes the other 5. Yeah. Jana. Jana. Jana just means the population. Population. Yeah. Jana. Sangha means association.
So what does Janasangha mean?
Associating with worldly people. It means materialistic people. If you want to become a spiritualist, if you want to become spiritual in your life, if you want to become Krishna conscious, if you want to become enlightened, you have to associate with spiritual people. That's why we live here and we hang out together, because it's spiritual. Otherwise, you hang out with ordinary materialistic people. You will become like them. We're all products of our association. Whatever we associate with, we become like that. You know? So if you want to become materialistic, associate with materialistic people. If you want to become spiritual, associate with spiritual people. If you want to develop love for Krishna, love for God, associate with people who love Krishna, and then you will become like that. So that is the one that causes all the others. Now, the first one is called achahara. Achahara means over collecting, overeating. This will destroy spiritual life. Too materialistic. Oh, let me just eat as much as I can. Some people think that's the goal of life. I just eat as much as I can. That's the goal of life. But in your next life, you will become a pig. Or in Germany, we call Schwein. And in Italy, we call? Everything sounds better in Italian. It doesn't matter what the word is, it sounds better. Maiale. You're my maiale. My little pig. You're my little pig. My maiale. In German, they just say you're a Schwein. And it's Schwein. And in English, we say pig. You're a pig. So if you don't control your tongue and you just eat like some humans do, next life you become, you become little pig. And then you become big pig. That's how it is. So we have to learn to control the tongue. Otherwise, overeating is not the goal of life. And over collecting, it's the disease of modern civilization. Over collect. Work hard all week, buy things that you don't need to impress all the people you don't like. That's modern society. Just work hard. So on the weekend, just buy all the things you don't need so you can impress all the people that you don't like. It doesn't even make sense. But this is materialistic life. So this will destroy your bhakti. The person who wrote this book is called Rupa Goswami. He lived under a tree, right? Lived under a tree. He was a mendicant, a monk. He lived under a tree. Each night he'd walk a different tree, just sleep under a different tree. No? Did not overeat. He only ate once a day. Rupa Goswami. So renounced. Only ate once a day. And did not over-collect. These are such advanced people. We should just be moderate. We can't do that, but we shouldn't over-collect or overeat also. Achara priyashas. Priyashas means over-endeavor. Work too hard. That's the goal of life for people out there. Just come on, work. Work hard. What's wrong with you? Just work hard. That's like the goal of life. No, but that will destroy your bhakti. That will destroy your bhakti. Too much endeavor. Right? We work hard. But for Krishna, but you have to keep it within moderation. So you have enough time to hear and chant about Krishna. And then you work hard for Krishna. That's good. But not so much that you're just working so hard that you just become completely exhausted. And then you can't hear and chant about Krishna. Yeah, and then no time for recreation. Yeah, so it needs to be balanced. So not too much endeavor. Over endeavor for materialistic things. This will destroy your devotion, your bhakti. And then prajalpa. Prajalpa means unnecessary talk. Means materialistic talk. We call it gramya kata. Gramya means the village talk. What's going on in the village? What did she do? What did he do? What's going on in the village? People, that's all the internet is. That's all Facebook is. It's all Instagram is. It's all it is. It's just village talk. Oh, what did she do? What did he do? Oh, that's what they talk about. Gramya kata. So it's materialistic. It will destroy your bhakti if you speak like this. So therefore, we have to learn to speak about spiritual. That's why we get together like this. We speak about spiritual things. Right? Otherwise, we speak about common things as well. We don't just speak like this all the time, but if you don't have a percentage of your life like this, your consciousness will go down into material consciousness. Like Monday night, I got together with devotees and we spoke on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Tuesday night, got together with devotees, spoke on Wednesday night, Upadeshamrita. Tomorrow night, Bhagavad Gita. Friday night, who knows? But we get together on a regular basis, speak about Krishna. That's the goal of life. Yeah. So otherwise, prajalpa will destroy your devotion. It will destroy your bhakti. Niyamagraha. This one is interesting. Niyamagraha means too attached to the rules and regulations or too slack in applying the rules and regulations. It can be taken both ways. Niyamagraha, niyamagraha. It can be taken both ways. Following rules and regulations, but not really understanding why you're doing it. Yeah, fanatical. Too far. And the other way is neglecting them. Should we put something on top of the harmonium or not? The harmonium it's non different from Balaram. So should we put something mundane on top of it? No, we should not. Should we move one of Krishna's paraphernalia, like the mridanga, with your foot? No. These means rules and regulations. Prabhupada said, actually, if I told you all the rules, you would faint.
It's true.
Prabhupada said,
And like after reading, the Nectar devotion, you go,
yeah,
let's leave all of them.
we'll get to that in the next few months. Yeah, that's not even all of them. There's the 64 that Rupa Goswami picked out that we should follow. So, we have to follow. If you don't follow a certain amount of rules and regulations, you won't progress. But if you follow them too fanatically, like every single thing, and like that, you also won't progress because you're not thinking of Krishna, you're just thinking of the rules and regulations. So it's a balance. Now, how do we know what to apply? By association of Guru and Sadhu. They will teach us what you should do. Don't be too slack, but don't be too fanatical either. You need to associate with the right personalities, and they will teach you. Just like we had a nice guru just here, Nirmala Mataji, very nice, saintly person, and Aniruddha and Shincharuda, gurus in their own right, very nice, saintly people. So we take their guidance, how to apply things. Jana Sangash, associating with materialistic people. Loyam cha, loyam means greed. And that's one of the diseases of the modern world. People are too greedy. That's the sixth of the qualities. Niyamagraha was the fourth. Greed is the disease of modern society. Lust, anger, and greed. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, these are the three gateways to hell. You want to wreck your life, just be lusty, angry, and greedy. You don't need to do anything else. That will destroy everything for you perfectly. So, greed, it's just modern society is based on greed. Who do we elect as the leader of the modern world? Donald Trump. Doesn't even make sense. The person's greedy. So now let's make America great again. Let's just, the whole thing's based on greed. And people follow that. They want to follow that. That's materialistic consciousness. But it destroys your spiritual life. When was the last time you heard these politicians speaking about spiritual life? They don't. Why? Because they're overcome by greed. It destroys your devotion. So we have to be very careful. So these six will destroy your devotional service. They're obstacles to devotion. Any points? So far. Okay, so now verse 3 discusses 6 qualities which are presidiety. Presidiety means allows you to become successful. You need these 6 qualities to become successful in your spiritual life, right? In your Krishna consciousness, in your devotional. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service: being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering about Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, these 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Okay. So, Utsahan, Nishchayat, Dharyat. You need these 3 principles to become successful in your Krishna consciousness, in your spiritual life. Utsahan means enthusiasm. You have to be enthusiastic. Where does enthusiasm come from? Bliss. What's that? You can say taste, yeah. You can say taste, but it says bliss, ananda. When you're blissful, like when something's really blissful and giving you spiritual happiness, you become enthusiastic. Just like we all have our favorite items of bhakti. Why? Because they give us pleasure, ananda, bliss. So then we're enthusiastic to do it. Like if you say to me, I'm buying you a ticket to go to Vrindavan, then I'll be enthusiastic. That's a holy place in India, very holy place. So enthusiasm will be there because there's bliss. I know when I get there, I'll be blissful. So devotional activities which give us bliss, that generates enthusiasm. So we have to get enthusiasm for devotional service. Where does it come from? You have to get the bliss or the taste. Param drishtva nivartate, the higher taste. Second is nishchayat. Nishchayat means confidence. Sometimes it's translated as determination. You have to be determined in spiritual life because no one's going to encourage you when you take to the spiritual path. Quite often the people, they do the opposite. They try to discourage you. Most of us probably know this when we told our families, or certain members of our families. You go home, I'm becoming a Hare Krishna. You can't do this. Why are you doing this? You haven't experienced anything in life yet. They tell us things like this, discourage us. So you have to be determined, confident that if I do it, I will get the best result. So we have to get that. Where does that come from? It comes from our association. You associate with people who are enthusiastic and determined, you will also become. Krishna says, Drida Vrata, Mahatmanas Tumam Pata. That's a different verse. Daivim Prakriti Mashrita. Where's the Drita Vrata? Where's that one? Satulokitya, Drita Vrata. Krishna says. Just can't remember the beginning of the verse. So, but Krishna says, Drida Vrata. Drida. Drida means determined. Vrata. Vow. And you have to be determined. I'm going to do this. That's how you advance in spiritual life. So if you associate with people who have that kind of determination, then you will also gain that determination. Utsahan nishchayat, daryat. Daryat means patience. You have to be patient in spiritual life. Why? Because it takes a long time. You won't become enlightened tomorrow. It will take time. That's good. Daryat. You have to be patient in spiritual life. Right? You can't become Krishna conscious overnight. It will take patience. So Rupa Goswami says, do this. Then he says, tatakama pravartanat, which means acting according to the regulative principles, such as hearing, chanting, and remembering. So you have to tatakama pravartanat. You have to begin to practice the devotional principles. Right? Chant 16 rounds a day. Follow the 4 regulative principles. Right? Practice the devotional principles. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Hearing, chanting, and remembering on a regular basis about Krishna. Practicing the devotional activities. That will cultivate your Krishna consciousness. Abandon the association of the non-devotees. Interesting. In the last verse, what's going to destroy your devotion? No? Being with materialistic people. Yeah, worldly people. And what's going to, here it says, the things that you should, in the previous verse, give up. In this verse, it says the things you should adopt. It says it again, right? Abandon, Sangha Tyagat. Tyag means renounce. Sangha Tyagat, materialists. We associate with materialists, but more to give them our association. Right? We go to them. Okay, I'll teach you something about spiritual life. We don't go to them to, do what they do, because that will distract our spiritual life. So again, it's mentioned, that's how important it is. Association is everything in spiritual life. And then, finally, Satobrite. Satobrite means following in the footsteps of previous acharyas, the great saints of the past, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, these great teachers who practice this spiritual life. We have to follow their footsteps, their examples, right? Prabhupada in particular, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, and all of the previous acharyas. We follow their example. And the modern saints, like the ones who were just here, we follow their example. Any points? So verse number 4, it's a very beautiful verse. They're all beautiful verses. Verse number 4 discusses the 6 loving exchanges. We call it Priti Lakshana. Shadvidhim Priti Lakshana, the way that we show affection to the other people who are practicing spiritual life. How do we show affection? Because if you want to follow the spiritual path for your whole life, which obviously those sitting in this room do, we want to follow our whole life. Because we see people fall away. People fall away. Like Urmila Mataji was just, he's been practicing 50 years plus. We want to be doing that, 50. When we're in our 70s, our 80s, we want to be practicing still. So that will depend upon association. If you don't have meaningful relationships and friendships in spiritual life, you won't last. You'll go back to the materialists. You have to associate with someone. So you're going to. So how do you cultivate and make the relationships meaningful and strong? There are 6 loving exchanges, which are given here. Dadati pratigrinati, to give gifts and to receive gifts. As we said when we discussed this verse several weeks ago, we said that it's actually harder to receive gifts than to give them. To receive it in such a way that someone feels satisfied. If someone gives you a nice gift and you go, oh, that's nice. Doesn't make them feel very good. So you have to accept it with graciously, with love. Well, that's called Priti Lakshana. So you accept and you give and you receive with affection. Then the second 2 items to show our affection, Guyamakyati Prichahati. That means to reveal the mind in confidence and to inquire confidentially. Right? It's very important in spiritual life. If you don't have this, you will feel empty in spiritual life. You'll feel dissatisfied. You need to reveal your mind in confidence and inquire confidentially. You know, how are you? And actually mean it. How are you? How are you? We say it all day. Every time you see someone, how are you? I'm not feeling very good. That's nice. People, it's very superficial. So in spiritual life, it has to become deep. We need people that we can relate to on a very deep level.
It's a tough one too, actually, for some people, because in this day and age, a lot of experience, that trust being broken, and so become quite guarded. So the concept, from my own life experience from a very young age, revealing the mind in confidence is very challenging and vulnerable, kind of thing to do. So it's yeah, it's always so easy. I can see why, because it creates that vulnerability and putting that, and trust, because if you can't trust, ultimately other devotees, can you really 100% even trust Krishna? There's a process. But yeah, it sounds very easy, but it's not so easy for most people in the world, actually, in this day and age.
Yeah, it's true. But we have to find at least a few people that we can do that with. Okay, if you can't do it with many people, then at least a few people that you really trust. Has to be at least a few. If it's more, that's very nice. But at least a few. It has to be there. Otherwise, you cannot advance properly in spiritual life. So it has to be there. Even if it's a few, but you have to find. And then, Bhukte Bojayate Chaiva, giving spiritual food and receiving spiritual food. It's called prasada. Just like when you got here, we gave you that nice sweet halava. This is the way we show love to each other. Cook something nice, give something nice, like that. Exchange in love. I went to one devotee's house last night because he does service for us, computer work and things, Sri Chaitanya Prabhu. So, and I was there, and it's about 6:30. And then his wife said, "Oh, would you like to have dinner?" So it's a way of showing love. But I already had someone else that I said I would have dinner with. So it's a way we show love. We give prasada, we receive prasada, spiritual food. Prabhupada says, even in the material world, this is how love is shown. Give gifts, receive gifts, veil the mind, inquire confidentially, give food stuff, receive food stuff. Same, but here in spiritual life, it's deeper. Deeper. Okay. Number 5. Number 5 teaches us how to differentiate or understand who is more advanced and who is less advanced than us spiritually. Because you need to know how to relate. You can't relate to everyone in the world the same way. If someone's more enlightened than you, you don't associate with them in the same way as someone who's less enlightened than you, or someone who's on the same level. So we have to understand. This is integral for spiritual life. So text number 5. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So these are the different levels. In Sanskrit, we call them Kanishta Adhikari, Majjhima Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari, which means a beginning, someone who's beginning their spiritual life, someone who's Majjhima means midway, and Uttama means someone who's very enlightened, very progressed. We deal with them differently. Right? They're not all the same. And you might remember in the class that we gave on this, there are 3 ways to understand. Does anyone remember the 3 ways to understand? Who's more advanced, who's less advanced? Chanting's one, yep. Yep. Then? No. Their realization, how they deal with the others, right? And the other one is their faith, their shraddha, right? These are on 3 different levels. Shraddha. Then chanting would be, I suppose, kirtan, and realization. I don't know how you would define that in terms of, there would be a word, but I'm not sure how they define. But this is how we understand who's more advanced, who's less advanced than us, right? The quality of their chanting, the realization of how they treat others, and their faith. How much faith do they have in Krishna? That's how we
realization of how they treat others.
Yeah, because if someone doesn't have much realization, a Kanishta Adhikari, he doesn't know how to deal with everyone else. The Majjhima Adhikari knows how to deal with everyone. And the Uttama Adhikari is so advanced, he just loves everyone. Yeah.
So it's the quality of the chanting, the realization of how they treat others.
Yeah.
And their faith.
Their faith, yeah.
That is what 3 ways?
To differentiate or understand who's on which level, Kanishta, Majjhima, or Uttama Adhikari. So that's how we understand, by following those 3 criteria. And we went into that in detail in the class. So you've got 2 weeks to your exam, so you could listen to everything again if you wanted to. It's a lot, but anyway. There's so much information here. We can only, in an overview class, we can only go over. So you have to go back through your notes and see the differences. Okay. So then, text number 6 us to understand the position of a pure devotee. And specifically with those we take shelter of, like our view them. So this is text number 6. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. This is how we should view very advanced devotees. We should not find defects. You should not think, well, the guru has to be from India. Some people think like that. It's common. If the guru's from India, then we'll offer respect to the person. But if they're a Western guru, we don't offer respect. So people think, or you think, the guru wears glasses. Oh, therefore he is not perfect. Or sometimes he forgets certain things. Oh, he's not, no, spiritually he is perfect. These are just material imperfections. But we can't judge the spiritual life or the spiritual position of an advanced devotee just by these material things. We have to see them from the spiritual point of view. Okay. And now verse number 7. Verse number 7 discusses the science of chanting the holy name. We are known as the Hare Krishnas. Why? Because we're always chanting Hare Krishna. Mantra meditation. Tomorrow night we'll do some mantra meditation. So, text number 7 says, the holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So this is the science of chanting. When you begin to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, like we chant for 2 hours a day in meditation, this Hare Krishna mantra, then in the beginning, it may be difficult because you don't have a taste for the chanting. But the more you do the chanting, the names of God, the names of Krishna, the more taste you get. And it's called nama ruchi. And when you develop that ruchi or that taste for chanting, then you cannot stop chanting. It becomes relishable. So in the beginning, just like when you have jaundice, hepatitis, then sweet things taste bitter. So you taste them, doesn't taste nice. That means you're sick, you're diseased. You need to cure it. So what's the cure for the disease? It's sugarcane. Right? So you've got jaundice. It tastes bitter, but the more you take the sweet sugarcane, gradually you'll taste the sweetness, and that means you're recovering. And when you can taste the sweetness fully, that means you're recovered. So in the beginning, the chanting may seem difficult or bitter, but the more you do it, the more taste you get, and then it cures your material disease. And as we're discussing last night, we heard the pastime that Lord Chaitanya fainted when he arrived in Jagannath Puri. They took him to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. The devotees woke him up by loud chanting. And when he woke up, he said, Hari, Hari. And his consciousness immediately. And we're making the point because Prana Prabhu passed away recently. And Mother Devi Shakti, she gave him the instruction, take exclusive shelter of the holy name of Krishna at the time of death. Just chant, nothing else. Right? And that's the goal of life. The goal of life is Namashraya, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Just chant the name of Krishna. At the end of your life, you can transcend. Exclusive shelter. Yeah.
Tried to wait tomorrow, so you don't have to now. He goes, no. Because it's an example for disciples and the I stop, they'll stop.
Good chance.
It's really important. Chance.
Yeah, so exclusive chant. So if it doesn't taste sweet, keep doing it and it will get sweet. And Jiva Goswami says, if you've been doing it for a long time and it's still not sweet, he says, increase it. And then the taste will come. Yeah. Yep. Very good. And actually, this verse, Satchidananda Swami after Kartik, this was the realization he got was actually these words, care and attention. Yeah. And Satchidananda Swami said, affectionate respect. We should chant with affectionate respect. And then you'll become, like if someone says your name affectionately with respect, There's nothing sweeter. So if you're saying Krishna, God's names with affection and respect, he will hear you. He will come to you. Okay, so then text number 8. Text number 8 describes Raga Nuga Bhakti. Spontaneous devotion in practice. Spontaneous love of God. This is what we're aiming for at this point. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braj, Goloka Vrindavan, Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached in his devotional service. So this verse teaches us what the goal of our practice is. We should practice in our mind meditating on Vrindavan. Vrindavan means the place where Krishna lives, God lives. Some people call it heaven. We call it Vrindavan. It's this forest place. You see in all the pictures. It's a beautiful forest place. So Vrindavan, should meditate on Vrindavan in our consciousness while doing our chanting in our sadhana, our spiritual practices. And then as we become advanced, we should meditate upon and follow in the footsteps of one particular devotee in the pastimes of Krishna. And as we said when we gave this class, Jamuna Devi, Prabhupada's disciple, she said to Prabhupada, "Are you that resident?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes." You can just meditate on Prabhupada, that's enough. If you're meditating on Prabhupada or your guru at the time of death, to Krishna, that is the goal. So this is the goal of our spiritual practice. In other words, to develop a desire to understand our Siddha Deha, or our eternal relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world, and follow in the footsteps of the devotees who are serving Krishna in a particular mood of devotional service. That is our goal in Vrindavan. In Nectar of Devotion, this will be explained more thoroughly. We'll get there. We'll start Nectar of Devotion next, after this. Text number 9. Now, text 9, 10, and 11 are the goal, what we're aiming for in our spiritual life. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha and the transcendental world. Because the Lord appeared there, superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna, and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarine prema of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So this verse teaches us the hierarchy of the spiritual world. In other words, what we're aiming for. You may not understand this part. I have to explain it in detail. I don't have time right now. But we're talking about God's kingdom, not this world that we're in now. This is called the Apara Prakriti, the inferior place. But the Para Prakriti, the superior place, it has gradations. Vaikuntha, Vrindavan, or Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radha Kund. Even in God's creation, he has his favorite places. So this is being revealed here to us by the great sage, Rupa Goswami. What is God's favorite place? And for those of us who are following in the footsteps of this tradition, we're aiming to ultimately perform devotional service eternally in that place, which is called Radha Kund. That is our goal. So here the goal is being explained. This is what we should be aiming for in our sadhana, to become attached to this place. Verse number 10. In the Shastra, it is said that all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life, is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, jnanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kund lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radha Kund? And in a spiritual body, surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, Aprakat Bhav, render loving service to the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakaliya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund are the most fortunate people in the universe. So here we're hearing about the gradations of spiritual personalities. First, we hear about the karmis, fruitive workers. Then we hear about jnanis, those who are detached from this world. But then above them are the devotees, which is the path that we follow. We devote ourselves to Krishna. That's our spiritual path. But then amongst them, the gopis, which means the girls that you can see with Krishna, they are said to be the most exalted of all. And of all of them, Srimati Radharani, who is just behind us just here, she is considered to be the topmost. So we're hearing about who it is that we should meditate upon. We should ultimately meditate on Srimati Radharani, her servants, and her followers. That is the goal of our meditation. We want to become Gopi Bhatu Pada Kamalayo Dasa Dasa Anudasa, the servant of the servant of the servant of Srimati Radharani and Krishna, the master of the gopis. So in order to attain that realization, Rupa Goswami says the most effective place to practice your devotional life is Radha Kund. And if you cannot reside in Radha Kund, this spiritual lake in Vrindavan, it is there in Vrindavan. If you cannot reside there physically, then mentally you should reside there. You should mentally focus on your, while practicing your devotional service, you should mentally focus on Radha. That is our goal. And the final verse, verse 11, discusses the glories of Radha Kund, which is the place that we're aiming for, the highest place in creation. Of the many objects of favor delight, and of all the lovable damsels of Brajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kund is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once in those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So, Shrimati Radharani, her service is the most exalted service that we can aspire for. And her Kund, which is non-different from her, as we explained in the classes, is the ultimate place for devotees to meditate upon serving Radha and Krishna. So that is the sum and substance of the sum and bonum, or the goal of spiritual life. So we'll stop there. Does anyone have any questions or comments on anything we discussed?
So practical. So practical. Like in terms of like those last few verses, say a little more esoteric. See that real gradation, those practical steps.
Mm.
Not that I'm probably near the last few verses, but you can imagine that as you sort of get closer, you do that just become just a very practical reality.
Mm. Yeah.
Those first like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 8, and then as you go up, it's like you can understand that would become a very solid step, which just plant your foot and take spiritual life to the next level.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's a very systematic, very well thought out, systematic way of progressing in Krishna consciousness in our spiritual life. And if we follow the teachings nicely, as Manigriva Prabhu said, then we will attain the goal of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so your exam will be in 2 weeks today, which will be on the 14th of February. Yep, 14th. So your open book essay is due on the 14th of February, and you will have your closed book exam, which will begin at 7 o'clock. You'll have 2 hours, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock on the 14th of February. If you have any questions between now and then, just contact me and we can answer your questions. Your key memory verses are the first 4 verses of the Nectar of Instruction to be memorized for your exam. Okay, so no class next week, and then the week after we'll have the exam. Then after that, we'll begin the Nectar of Devotion. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thank you all for coming. Hare Krishna. Good to see you all.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Good to see you. See you on the weekend.
Yes,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Very well.
Hare Krishna.